thank everyone. I'd like to thank everyone for some very relevant and thoughtful questions and concerns. So I'll now read the chairperson statement and go over tonight's meeting rules and procedures. This public hearing is being convened pursuant to section 464 of the Local Government Act in order to consider Fraser Valley Regional District Hemlock Valley Official Community Plan Bylaw number 1626, 2021, hereinafter referred to as Bylaw 1626. Time and place for the public hearing was advertised for the January 21st and the January 28th, 2022 editions of the Agassiz Harrison Observer newspaper and mailed to all property owners and occupants in Hemlock Valley. Public hearing information was also posted on the FERD website and shared with the Hemlock Valley Homeowners Association. At this public hearing, any person present who believes his or her interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaws shall be given an opportunity to be heard on the matters contained in the bylaw. It is important that all who speak at this meeting restrict their remarks to matters contained in the bylaw and to address their comments to the chair. It is the responsibility of the chairperson of the hearing to ensure that all remarks are so restricted. No one will be or should feel discouraged or prevented from making his or her views known. The first opportunity to speak will be offered to those who have pre-registered as speakers. After the pre-registered speakers have spoken, we will open the meeting to give everyone an opportunity to speak. FERD staff will at the appropriate time provide instructions on how you can speak. When it is your turn to speak, FERD staff will inform you that it is your turn. You may be asked to unmute your device. Directions to unmute will be provided by the FERD staff. When you speak, please speak into your device or microphone. Clearly state your name and address and give your comments on the proposed bylaw. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes or less. After everyone has had an opportunity to speak once, those interested in speaking a further time will be given an opportunity to speak again. FERD staff will, at the appropriate time, provide instructions on how you can speak a further time. If you do speak a further time, please limit your comments to new information for the board's consideration, and again, limit your comments to 5 minutes. This process will continue until there are no further submissions. Please remain respectful at all times. The function of the board members this evening is to listen to the views of the public. Members of the board may ask questions of you following your submission. Board members will not debate the merits of the proposed bylaw tonight. After the conclusion of the hearing, the board will not be able to receive further comments on the bylaw. However, questions can be answered by staff at the FERD office during regular business hours, which are 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. on weekdays. All submissions and comments provided will be part of the public record of this hearing. The FERD will retain a copy of the public hearing recording. We will now receive submissions on bylaw number 1626. The purpose of bylaw 1626 is to adopt an official community plan for Hemlock Valley, Electoral Area C. FERD staff will now review the instructions on how to participate.
If you are dialing in and would like to speak, raise your hand by pressing *9. When you hear a prompt, press *6 to unmute yourself. If you're joining the public hearing via the Zoom app or the provided web link and would like to speak, click the raise hand button at the bottom of the Zoom meeting window. When you see a prompt on your screen, please unmute yourself to speak. Participants will have 5 minutes to speak. Those who have registered in advance will be given first opportunity to speak. Once the speaker list has been exhausted, you will be asked to use the raised hand feature to indicate if you would like to speak.
So I'll now ask FERD staff if we are ready to receive submissions.
Yes, we're ready.
Okay.
Who is our first registered speaker?
First on the list, we have Kendra Von Hahn. Oh, Kendra, go ahead and unmute yourself. And please state your name and address.
Kendra Von Hahn, address at Hemlock is 209 something on Snowflake Crescent. Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you. Good evening, fellow stakeholders of the Hemlock area located on the lands of Chehalis Coast First Nations. I heartfully acknowledge that we are on the unceded and unsurrendered traditional territories of the Chehalis. With this acknowledgement comes the commitment to engage in ongoing acts of reconciliation. This evening on February 3rd, 2022, during this public hearing of the OCP, I, Kendra Von Hahn, Vice President of the Hemlock Valley Homeowners Association, more commonly referred to as HVHA, and representing a much larger voice, our extremely valuable membership base of approximately 200 households representing 1,000 people. Collectively, these people are currently the largest investors in Hemlock Valley. According to the BC Property Assessment, it is now estimated $50 million has been invested by individual homeowners in the last decade throughout property value increases, home improvements, and new builds on private, freehold, non-leased land. We currently have approximately 20 more property owners waiting for permits to build. This will increase our combined investment by an additional conservative estimate of $10 million. Our voice matters, and I urge the FVRD to take these suggestions already mentioned today and recommendations by individual homeowners with this weighted group value in mind. The HVHA is governed by the Society Act and supported by 12 fantastic directors and executives, and our long-standing president, Mr. Brian Murphy, who will also speak, who has had an instrumental input in the OCP document. We are mandated to promote, support, and protect the status, rights, and interests of persons owning residential property in the Hemlock Valley Recreation Area. Our board meets monthly. We send monthly updates out to membership base via an electronic newsletter called the Hemlock Howler. Our website is hvha.ca, and our AGM usually is in late summer, early fall. It is through these channels that we have learned from the community concerns and comments about the OCP at a general level, which I will highlight now. So overall, we are finding the Hemlock Valley Homeowners Association supports this OCP with some general points of feedback. The OCP needs way more emphasis on publicly owned indoor space, for example, a community center operated by the district, and this should be complemented by publicly owned outdoor space, such as a playground and park. Number two, we need to see continued commitment to protect our linear parkways and to be used free of charge. Number three, please maintain the allowance of secondary suites. Number four, we need to see increased ease of obtaining business licenses for home-based businesses owned by residents to enhance the needs of the community. Simple corner stores, cafe, laundromats, childcare. It is also important to the HVHA that Hemlock maintains the Hemlock Valley name and sufficient signage. We do not support the entire area being named and absorbed into the developer name or a specific recreation entity. As touched on, we do have infrastructure concerns over aging and capacity issues. We need a more organized plan for snow removal and clearing. And lastly, as Hemlock develops, we need increased efforts in emergency planning, specifically in the event of a structure fire and/or forest fire. We at the HVHA concern ourselves with the performance and public bodies and agencies such as FVRD, Ministry of Transportation, Resort Branch, Tourism Harrison. As this OCP moves forward, we urge these regulatory bodies to keep up with the demand of the area. Today, I am calling on these agencies to increase your attention to the growing Hemlock Electoral Area C zones to ensure the vision of this OCP can come to fruition. Lastly, thank you to the Bearzans and Chehalis. We look forward to the execution and action on the resort master plan. It is our intention to promote, develop, and foster a strong community spirit and good citizenship. On behalf of HVHA, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Van Haan, for your nice comments. Is there anyone else that would like to make a submission?
We will go to our next registered speaker.
Next
Okay.
registered speaker, on behalf of Bearazan Hospitality Group, I have Troy Bilodeau or Terry Pratt. Troy, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Troy Bilodeau. I'm the president of the Bearazan Hospitality Group. I would also like to acknowledge that the land on which we gather at Sasquatch Mountain Resort in the Hemlock Valley is the unceded territory of the Stahelis First Nations people, and we are very grateful to have the opportunity to work in this territory. I'd also like to acknowledge Milo Buckingham, our Director of Operations, who's been very involved from the BHG side with the FVRD OCP amendment process over the past years. Also Terry Pratt, who's we've obtained as a consultant to BHG moving forward. I'd like to also thank the FVRD for the changes and updates that they have made based on our feedback and for the involvement in this process. As with other revisions, we have submitted our notes and feedback in writing via email to the planning department. On January 27th, BHG, or the Bearazan Hospitality Group, submitted a letter to the planning department regarding the current direction in the OCP for the FVRD intention to own new water and sewer utilities, as well as the encouragement to have BC Hydro take over electrical. We hope the board has the opportunity or has had the opportunity to read this letter. And this letter discusses the importance of the resort retaining ownership of the utilities so it can quickly expand the utilities to respond to market trends and community needs. There's a proven track record of success in BC where resort developers retain ownership of the utilities, allowing for coordinated growth for both the resort and the utilities. Some including Sun Peaks, Big White, Kicking Horse, Fernie Alpine, Whitewater, Mount Washington, and Apex Resort. Critical investments are being made to the utilities, including a new water plant, and with the OCP and resort planning underway, planning for utilities expansion is underway as well. BHG looks forward to having further productive discussions with the FVRD on this important issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bilodeau.
Next on our registered speakers list, Benjamin Kobashi, please go ahead and unmute yourself and state your name and address. If you would like to provide a comment, please remember to unmute yourself. Press the mute button in the bottom left of the screen in the Zoom window.
Are you there, Benjamin? Perhaps let's move on to our next speaker, and if Benjamin wishes to speak later on, he will have that chance.
Next on the list, we have Ken Howsam as a registered speaker. I do not see Ken on our list of participants in this meeting. Please proceed to raise your hand if you are participating under a different name this evening. We do not have any further registered speakers.
So then we will open up the floor, so to speak, to anybody else that would like to make a submission. Please raise your hand if you would like to make a formal submission.
Connor, please unmute yourself and state your name and address.
Hello, my name is Connor O'Leary, 20619 Edelweiss Drive in the Hemlock Valley. I spoke earlier. I just wanted to make sure that my comments earlier were also addressing the official portion of the public hearing. So comment one, just to reiterate, was confirming current tax dollars going to funding park improvements in the existing dedication, and also in new park dedications for connecting the communities through trails and snowshoe trails. Part two was confirming if an official environmental study can be conducted to establish more defined riparian areas to avoid having the burden be on the property owner to prove that the property is not in a riparian zone, but have an official community plan that shows the properties that are located within the established riparian zones. And three was confirming that with resort development, there is community amenities contributions for increased development of a resort in the existing subdivision to ensure that it funds public contribution and amenity areas in the existing subdivision areas. That's it for me.
Good, thank you for your comments, Mr. O'Leary. Would someone else like to make a submission?
If you are participating on a computer, please remember to click the raise hand button at the bottom of your Zoom meeting window. The same as if you are participating on a phone or tablet. Our next speaker, Brian Murphy, please unmute yourself, confirm your name and address.
Yes, my name is Brian Murphy. I'm at 310 21,000 Enzian Way, Hemlock Valley. I'm president of the Homeowners Association. First of all, I'd like to thank all the FERCD staff for all the hard work they have done. As you can see, the many years we put in over time. And even though we've put all this time in, we still seem to come up with more ideas and changes that we need. To answer a question by Connor, there was a trail mapped out, and there is a map trail in the OCP that shows, and this was due to safety because of the lack of sidewalks and safe walkability from each subdivision to get to the lodge. And that's, I think that's an imperative move, and it should be moved forward quickly with the resort and the FERD. And that's one. Number two is that I think if this OCP is going to be successful, and that is that before there's any further development by the resort's developer, and that the proper, well, let's say the utility upgrades and what they needed and what the capacities are now, so that the lots that we have available that can be built on now, they can move forward, because we do not want to stunt the growth that we've had over the last 5 years or so. And that I think if we can get a proper timeline out of the resort, maybe this will alleviate some of the people's concerns. Thank you, and thank you, Kendra, for doing such a good job of introducing HVHA. Thank you.
Good, thank you, Mr. Murphy, for your submission. Any further comments?
John McEwen, please unmute yourself and confirm your name and address.
My name is John McEwen, 20934 Snowflake Crescent. My comments are just to follow up on what Brian just said. I think that there needs to be a bit of a pause in regards to this. I think that existing property owners that are paying property taxes to the regional district and can't build on their lots needs to be rectified immediately. I think the regional district can play a significant role in this by setting timelines. I don't really believe that it's all being left onto the Utilities Commission. The resort last year asked for a 1-year temporary septic field for their ski hill accommodations, which the Fraser Valley Regional District granted. Fraser Valley Regional District needs to hold them accountable and make sure that the owners are being fully responsible and being respected in regards to property owners. I think that this case of the utilities is a very concerning, regarding the health and safety of those people up there, especially on busy weekends when we have no water in certain areas, electricity goes out, and the sewer issues. So I think that's something that the Fraser Valley Regional District needs to play a much bigger role in this and be much more aware of what's going on up at Hemlock right now, as I think that they will during as I said previously, when assessments start coming up and seeing the appreciation of these lots up there and the demand on these lots, the tax base that is going to be created from that. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Good, thank you, Mr. McEwen, for your submission. Anyone else that would like to make a comment?
If you are dialing in and would like to speak, raise your hand by pressing *9. When you hear a prompt, press *6 to unmute yourself. Ken H., please unmute yourself and confirm your name and address.
Hello, sorry about that. Having some technical issues. My name is Ken Howsam, and I'm at 20740 Mount Clout Road, Hemlock Valley.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Howsam.
Hello, just issues. Thank you very much for hosting this and having some input from stakeholders for the community. In whole, the plan looks really good. There's a couple of outlying questions that haven't really been flushed out through the plan, and that is for some of our fire suppression activities. And I noticed in the plan, it said that the resort developer will determine best location for the fire hall. And so from what we've understood from the resort folks, that they're looking at relocating the fire hall. The plan of is to move it down the out of the village by at least 2 to 3 minutes. So that was a concern that we have from the fire hall position. And we like to maintain where it is, but we certainly need a bigger fire hall. So that's one of the comments that I have for that. The other one is, and in the plan, it also indicates that they're looking at motorized vehicle access to off-road activities, but it wasn't quite defined in the plan. So when I was out walking through the village, every trail that we currently have in the village to access the mountains have large signs on it that says motorized vehicles or any outside activities is not allowed on the trails. And there will also be fines and up to including prosecution for anybody violating those fines. So there's signs already in place in the village. So those are some of the comments and concerns that we have from a homeowner perspective in the valley. And that's pretty well all I have to add to the meeting. Just those two components, which are going to be quite significant for both the homeowners and for also fire suppression activities in the village.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Howsam, for your submission. Further comments?
If you're joining the public hearing via the Zoom app or the provided web link and you'd like to speak, please click the raise hand button at the bottom of the Zoom meeting window. And when you see a prompt on your screen, please unmute yourself to speak. We do not currently have any raised hands.
Okay. For the second time, are there any further briefs or comments to be made on bylaw 1626?
Yes, we have a raised hand.
Okay.
Brian Murphy, please unmute yourself and confirm your name and address.
Yes, Brian Murphy, Unit 310A, 21,000 Enzian Way. And one of the comments that I wanted to make in this OCP is that it says that when we do the neighborhood plans, that there's going to be consultation with the resort developer, with yourselves and the Stahalis, and that, or is the community as a whole also going to be involved as we move forward on that? And that's one of the questions I have.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
thank you. And the other thing is that it has taken over 20 years to get the stylists to come to our last AGM. And I'm sure glad they're on board now to meet with us. So thank you.
Good, thank you, Mr. Murphy. Anyone else that has a submission?
A reminder that if you're dialing in and you'd like to speak, raise your hand by pressing *9. And if you are participating on the computer or using a smartphone, please click the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen, bottom left of your screen. Stanley Van Kulen, please unmute yourself and confirm your name and address. Stanley, I can see that you're unmuted. Please go ahead and provide your comments if you're ready. Okay. Please raise your hand if you would still like to make a comment. We do not currently have any raised hands.
Okay, it appears that we have no further speakers for the third. Pardon me.
My apologies. We'll try one more time. Stanley Van Kulen, please unmute yourself and confirm your name and address. Stanley, unfortunately, we are not able to hear your audio.
So staff, if there are technological problems, people can still make a statement to staff following the meeting or no?
We can encourage Mr. Van Kulen to reach out to us if he has any questions, and we can do our best to answer them.
Oh, we don't have any further raised hands.
Okay, thank you, staff. Then for the third and final time, are there any further briefs or comments to be made on bylaw 1626?
We have a raised hand. The name is under Gelu. Please unmute yourself and confirm your name and address.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Jalo Halmagi, Unit 206A, 21,000 Enzian Way. I just want to make sure that the OCP will contain a clear distinction between the commercial use and public use of the CRA in terms of trails, snowshoe trails, and trails during the summer and winter as well.
Good. Is that the extent of your comments, Mr. Kalu?
Yes, this is my comment.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So for the third and final time, are there any further briefs or comments to be made on bylaw 1626?
We do not see any raised hands.
Good. Hearing no further speakers, the public hearing for bylaw 1626 is now concluded. This brings our public hearing to an end. The board may not receive any further comments on the bylaw. However, questions can be answered by the staff at the FERD office during normal hours. A report on the hearing will be considered in the near future by the FERD board. Thank you, everyone, for participating tonight and the very relevant questions and very respectful conduct. Much appreciated. Good night, everyone.